Hi, welcome to our professional interview series. My name is Mary Ann Barnett, and I am the transition coordinator for the Wisconsin Educational Services Program for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Outreach. And today I have with me Krista Ostrowski, who's going to share a little bit about her career and her background and her journey to become who she is today. Welcome, Krista.
Hi, thank you.
So if you'd please introduce yourself and talk about your background and where you are and where you came from and all that good stuff that made you, you.
Okay, so my name's Krista Ostrowski. I grew up in a small town called Wind Lake, Wisconsin, which is about 30 minutes south of Milwaukee. So I went to high school at Muskego High School, and then I did my undergraduate work and my graduate work at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I am currently an audiologist for Milwaukee Public Schools. We call ourselves educational audiologists because a lot of times I'm going in to see MPS students in their classrooms and to make sure that they're hearing the best that they can in school. But my job is also a little bit unique in that I'm in an office building instead of a school, and we have an audiology sound suite where we can conduct hearing evaluations on students. So oftentimes students are referred to us if they don't pass a hearing screening in school, and we can provide them with an audiology evaluation.
So in considering your career choice of audiology, what or who was your inspiration to become interested in this particular career?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always knew I wanted to be in a helping career and probably something in healthcare. I was kind of thinking about being a physician at first, and I just started some biology coursework, and kind of realized that I maybe didn't want something possibly so stressful and something that maybe would require long hours and things like that. And at that time, actually, I have a brother who is 12 years younger than me, and he was starting elementary school, and he had a lot of issues with ear infections and things like that that were kind of impacting his hearing. And then he had some things going on with his speech and learning and things like that. So I was more introduced to things in the educational and special ed world, as well as I went to some of his audiology appointments at Children's Hospital. And then so I started in the communicative disorders program at Madison to see if I liked that. And actually, we didn't get any audiology courses until my junior year. And then once I had my first introduction to audiology class, I just felt like that was my calling.
Very nice. We're glad you chose it. How many years of college did it take you to become a certified educational audiologist?
Yep. So I think most programs have it where your undergrad is the same as what speech pathologists have. So speech language pathologists and audiologists both get a degree. At Madison, it's called communicative disorders. So it's 4 years of that. And then if you choose audiology, it's a 4-year doctorate degree. And there's 2 programs in Madison that offer, or 2 programs in Wisconsin that offer that right now.
So for a total of 8 years then?
Total of 8 years. It's a similar career path as like your eye doctor.
Mm-hmm.
We do a similar like clinical and coursework as they do.
Okay. So you said you are with Milwaukee Public Schools. So do you only work with the deaf and hard of hearing students there?
The majority of the time that's what I'm doing, but a lot of times we also just see students for hearing tests who are not in the deaf and hard of hearing program. So maybe it's a student who had their hearing screened and they had an ear infection that day, and then they come in and we do a hearing test, or they couldn't be screened by the nurse or the speech pathologist because they didn't have the right equipment or tools, and then they come to us. So sometimes we're kind of figuring that out, what their hearing degree is.
What is the most fun part of your job?
I most like testing kids, and I really like testing little kids that are harder to test. Once students are like over the age of 5, they can just raise their hand and tell you when they heard a beep. But when they're little, they don't want to do that. So we get to play games and figure out how they're going to best respond to us. And then I also really like going out and seeing kids in their classroom and trying to figure out creative ways as to help them hear in their classroom and hear their teacher and their peers. And I also really like working with other staff members. You get a lot of opportunities in schools to work as a team with a lot of people. I feel like there's one more thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, one thing is being an audiologist, especially in the schools, is I kind of feel like the fixer. Like you come in and you have your little tool of things, and you might be the only person who knows how to fix the hearing aids. So I have a teacher who calls me and says, Johnny's hearing aid's not working. And then I show up and figure out what the problem is, and sometimes get to fix it on the spot. And then everyone gets really happy after that.
Nice. So do you have one good story or one best memory that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I love obviously fixing things, and then a child's not hearing and then you fix it and they hear. And there's been situations where we've had students who a team of people looks at them and thinks maybe they are having trouble learning and trouble saying things, and then all of a sudden we realize it was a hearing loss, and they get hearing aids, and all of a sudden they're speaking a lot more clearly and they're not having as much difficulty learning and things like that. So I like those memories, but also I've been in this role for almost 10 years now. So I'm seeing some students this year who are in middle school that when I started, they were just starting in like K3 and 4. So it's a really cool role to be able to follow them kind of all the way through their school path. And it's longer than just seeing them for 1 year as a teacher. You get to kind of see them through the whole way, through all of school.
Do you happen to work with any other staff members who happen to be deaf or hard of hearing?
Yeah, at MPS, we have quite a few staff members who are on the deaf and hard of hearing evaluation team, who themselves have a hearing loss or are deaf. And I work with a lot of interpreters as well. And then I've also met a lot of staff just who are regular education teachers, and maybe I'll see them for a 504 meeting or something for a student with hearing loss, and they say, oh, I have a hearing loss myself. So that's been interesting to see, and they have a really good perspective as to how to help their students here in their classroom.
Do you know any sign language?
Yeah, I learned, well, actually, I was in sign language classes when I was 3, and I was on like the front page of the paper signing water.
Why? Why?
I don't know, actually. My mom signed me up. She thought it was super cool. But I only did that for a couple years. And then I took only about 2 years in graduate school. But I will say that I didn't use it right away. So I did lose a lot of my signing abilities. I actually use like Spanish now more than I do sign. But we do have Milwaukee Sign Language School, which is an elementary and middle school where a lot of interpreters are used, and the deaf and hard of hearing teachers sign, and a lot of the students sign. I don't actually cover that school, but I've been in there a lot, and they use a lot of sign language there. So I do wish that I was better at it than I am.
So Krista, what would you suggest to any young people that are watching this interview who might be interested in your type of work, your career choice? What would you suggest for them?
I think taking any type of biology classes and just making sure that you're kind of interested in something related to healthcare and hearing. And then what I did a lot was I shadowed as many people that I could. Actually, starting in high school, we had like a family friend who was a speech language pathologist. when I thought, oh, maybe I want to be a physician, I actually talked to my own doctor about it, and asked, what kind of coursework she went through. Does she like her job? Things like that. And then as soon as I started school, I actually contacted the audiology department at Children's Hospital, and I asked if I could shadow them. So I just did that as much as I possibly could, and that really helped me to make my own decision of whether or not I thought it was a good fit.
Very nice. Do you have any other words of wisdom or inspiration or encouragement that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. I have a 16-year-old sister actually, and she's kind of trying to decide what she wants to do. And I think there's certain things that she knows that she definitely doesn't want to do, and some things that she's interested in but not sure. So I kind of gave the similar suggestions to just shadow people and talk to people and listen to things like this that you're providing. And I also think it's okay not to know right away. It's a really big decision on what you want to do for a really long time, especially if you choose something like audiology. It's very specific. You go to school for a really long time. So you want to make sure that you know that you're going to like it at the end. So I would just try and be inspired by real world examples as much as possible.
Thank you so much for your time and your expertise in this field. We hope to show these on our website, and I'll let you know when they're available.
Okay, perfect.